You know what? Wagons East ain't that bad. So I'm making this video in response to the recent passing of comedian and actor Richard Lewis. Like many folks, I've enjoyed watching him on Curb Your Enthusiasm for the last 20 years, but I decided to catch up with some of his work that I hadn't seen. Films like Once Upon a Crime, or Drunks, or Wagons East. This is, of course, the film on which John Candy sadly died while making, although I believe the majority of his shooting was completed at the time of his death. So with that very large shadow looming over its release in 1994, the film tanked, was panned by critics, and is now mostly remembered as the movie that John Candy died on. Its current Rotten Tomatoes score is 0. 0! So this must be the most inept, unfunny piece of shit ever made, right? Right? So we open in the town of Prosperity and meet our down-on-their-luck main characters. You got Richard Lewis playing an ex-doctor who just had all of his cattle rustled. Then you got the whore with the heart of gold, played by Ellen Greene, and she's tired of all these lowlives with no money. You got the bank manager, played by Robert Picardo, who's constantly getting robbed.
This is the third time this month.
You got a mail-order bride, played by Robin McKee, who's not too keen on her new husbands. Plural.
Right.
And then there's the gay bookshop owner, played by John C. McKinley, who must put up with all these illiterate, unsophisticated townsfolk.
Where's your outhouse?
It's in the back.
They all gather and commiserate over whiskeys at the pub and decide that moving out to the west hasn't been all that it's cracked up to be, and so why don't they all just pack it up and move back east?
But leaving would be like giving up.
That's exactly what it would be, Ben. Giving up. So let's just give up. Let's get out of here. Let's get ourselves a wagon master and go home. Let's go east. What do you say?
And who should appear but the grizzled, drunkard wagon master James Harlow, played by John Candy.
Who's he?
After some sobering up, he decides to lead the wagon train on their journey.
Wagons! East!
And so you get all the touchstones of the Western film, like a run-in with the Sioux Indians, the cavalry, evil railroad magnates, and grimy outlaws. But the film's humor stays rooted in its time period without the anachronistic groaners that usually plagues films like this. So I'm gonna pick on Robin Hood Men in Tights just as an example. It came out a year earlier and also co-stars Richard Lewis as Prince John. Now, it's still very funny, but in my opinion ages a lot worse because of things like its rapping merry men and pump-up basketball sneakers. These are the kind of groaners I'm talking about. Now, while there's nothing that egregious in Wagons East, it is at its lowest when it starts getting slapsticky with exaggerated faces, goofy sound effects, and music.
Fat man fall down!
There's a subplot that involves a gunslinger who's been hired by the railroad company to sabotage the wagon train, only to have his plans backfire on him, a la Wile E. Coyote. He's played by Ed Lauder, and he's awesome, and he's given a great introduction when he receives his orders from the Pony Express.
Which way's Abilene?
That way.
Okay. And, what about Denver?
Dead ahead.
Now, the gay character of Julian is probably what most folks will point to as aging the worst, but as played by the invaluable John C. McGinley, he gets the most badass character turn in the film when he confronts Ed Lauder's gunslinger character in perhaps the best scene in the movie. I listed the main cast of characters, but this film is just a treasure trove of, hey, that guy, character actors. Folks like William Sanderson, or Ethan Phillips, Gaylord Sartain, Lachlan Monroe, and Don Lake.
I have orders from General William H. Larchman to instruct you to either turn back or face the consequences.
What exactly are the consequences?
Well, you know, your standard U.S. cavalry massacre. He can explain.
Another great fun character is the cavalry general, played by Charles Rocket.
Sir, are you sure we really need the bighorn?
Of course, you idiot! It instills fear in the hearts of the enemy and saps their strength, turns their bowels to jelly.
It's the kind of role you could easily see Phil Hartman sliding into back in the day.
All right, then, let's kill some people. To glory!
So I should probably get to Richard Lewis, whose death was the impetus behind watching this film in the first place. I mean, he's basically just playing the Richard Lewis character we've seen on Curb and his film appearances, but in the Old West. He's on the wagon train with his wife and 2 children, a boy and a girl. He gave up on his medical practice after the war, but at a crucial moment he has to roll up his sleeves again and tend to one of the men who's been shot.
I got in there. It was like old times. The knife became like an extension of my hand. The blood, the tissue, none of it bothered me.
Dr. Taylor, I am so proud of you.
I think enough has been said about John Candy over the years, and so I won't add anything else except to say that he's very funny and sweet in the movie, and I miss him.
I'd just like to say that I don't think of you as just a whore.
Oh, Paulo, that's so sweet.
Thank you, man.
So if I haven't made it clear yet, this movie was a very pleasant surprise. I've been avoiding it all these years because of its reputation that it does not at all deserve, and certainly not a 0% score on Rotten Tomatoes. I've seen a lot worse. It ain't that bad!